Valorie and her sister. I hate to hear you talk about all women as if they were fine ladies instead of rational creatures. None of us want to be in calm waters all our lives. Jane Austen, Persuasion. 911, 911! I was repeatedly paging Steve since I felt the first contraction, but I hadn't heard back from him. Back then, we didn't have cell phones like we do today, so Steve kept a pager for when the big day arrived. I knew I would have the baby quickly, as it had taken only 5 hours to have Kyra. Has something happened to him? If not, he's dead. Contraction. 911, 911, 911. No response. I didn't know it yet, but Steve's car had broken down on Interstate 25, and he was trying like mad to hitchhike home. It was the first and only time that car had broken down. He couldn't call, and I could no longer wait by the phone. There was nobody to pick my brother up from the airport. He was flying in, along with my sister, so that we could sort through Mom's belongings. My brother's plane had landed, so while at the beginning stages of labor, and with Kyra in Hall, I drove to the airport. Walking felt like aerobics, and I looked like a wounded penguin. I'll admit, even though this was my second child, I was scared. I saw my brother in the baggage area and breathed out, "Hey bro, welcome back. I'm in labor." His face went ghostly white. Perhaps he was in shock, but he didn't offer to drive home. Another contraction. My belly tightened up like a rock. Breathe. When Steve gets home alive, he's dead. Finally arriving back home, there was still no sign of Steve. I started to uneasily pace the house as my brother raided my refrigerator for pizza. Lord, where is Steve? Finally, a trusting man offered Steve a ride home. Seeing him walk to the door gave me a huge blast of gratefulness. We hugged, but as the contraction began again, we let go and hurriedly jumped into the car and headed for the hospital. Only a couple of minutes later, the van started to sputter and spit. Decelerating, we realized we were out of gas. We thanked our lucky stars when we managed to coast on fumes to the closest gas station. After managing my brother, the van breaking down, searching for Steve, and running out of gas, we finally made it to the hospital. I had been laboring for about 2 hours and was already 5 centimeters dilated. By the time we got there and I asked for an epidural, I was told it was too late. So Steve and I held on, and I bore down. I was becoming exhausted, and my throat was terribly dry, but due to the possibility of a C-section, I could not drink water. A compassionate nurse handed Steve a paper cup filled with ice chips to give to me. I looked up with anticipation. I couldn't wait to feel that ice melt on my hot tongue. Steve grabbed the flimsy cup, wiped his brow as if he'd been working a 12-hour shift, sighed heavily, and said, "Thank you." Then he began to gulp down the chips. "Hey, what?" "Sir, those are for her," the nurse said, agitated. Steve turned 50 shades of red. "Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry. Here, baby." He fumbled with the cup, offering me the decadent frosty morsels. I couldn't help but laugh as I sucked the cool chips from his trembling fingers. I was so glad my best friend was with me. Valerie's tiny head was close to crowning, and Steve suddenly cupped my face in his hands and looked straight into my eyes. His face was serious, even solemn. I had no idea what he was doing. His seriousness almost scared me. "Your mother asked me to give you something at this very moment," and he began to sob as he placed a hand-pressed penny into my hand. When I realized what he was saying to me, I unyieldingly gripped his hand tighter. It was as though my mother had just walked into the room. I gawked at the coin, turning it around on my palm. It was a kind of penny cranked in an amusement park, but this wasn't a reminder of Disneyland. This was a reminder of Mom. Upon it was engraved the entire Lord's Prayer. "Our Father, who art in heaven." Seriously? She gave this to you? She said that? The tears welled up in my eyes. I couldn't believe it. "Oh, Mom, I feel you." I didn't know she was saying goodbye. He swore as he physically crumbled in tears. "You've kept this a secret for all these months?" The tears rolled down my cheeks, my heart wounded by his pain. I reached out to hold him. I clung onto that penny with all my might, relishing the solace. Steve and I held each other and just wept until the next strong contraction came. Our baby girl joined her eager big sister on a sunny afternoon. We named her after my real mother. All of the nurses at the hospital purred about how beautiful she was. Valorie was the most stunning, magical, and perfect thing I'd ever seen. I just couldn't believe how much I could love someone so tiny, so completely and entirely. Feeling the kicks for so long, and then finally getting to hold and see what that little person looks like. Priceless. Reality with Valorie is always sunny. She was born notoriously good-natured. The day we brought Valorie home, an excited and tad envious Kyra paid very close attention to her baby sister. Kyra worshipped her Valorie, and usually slept under her bassinet. It felt glorious to smile again as I cradled our daughter, my heart teeming with gratefulness, if only for a short while. Valorie had an appointment for a hearing check at the hospital, and as Steve and I were leaving, Kyra enthusiastically asked if we would leave her there. We snickered about Kyra's antics as a couple. We seemed happy. I was relaxed, but this feeling wouldn't last for long. Steve had been keeping a dark, life-changing secret from me.